Hello, everyone. This is Gossip and Chips. Welcome back to another review. We're going to be snacking today on my end on some regular Pringles. Let me know in the comments what you snacked on while you watched this video with me. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump straight into the video.
Am I the a-hole for kicking my mom's husband out of the house because he told me to do it? I am a 38-year-old male that still lives at home with his mom, but that is not actually what is happening. I live at home and my mom lives with me inside of my house.
Okay, right away we have this young man seemingly trying to get ahead of any criticism that might come his way regarding living with his mother. I think depending on the region of the world where you live, living with family members, co-residing with family members is perfectly okay. It can be very healthy and beneficial, actually. It really does depend on the culture and whether the adult members can maintain healthy boundaries and respectful behavior. I don't personally have anything against it, but I do know that in some countries it's kind of seen as a no-no if you live with your parents after a certain age.
About 10 years ago, when she had got divorced to my dad because of his infidelity, she didn't have anywhere to go after the divorce, being that they had the house before they got married. So my mom decided to move in with me, her only son, which I was happy to oblige because she took care of me wonderfully inside of my younger years. And now that I'm older, I should be able to take care of her. And so I thought.
I think it's really good on his part that he has that bond with his mom, that he would like to give her shelter in a situation that he perceives as very difficult for her in her marriage to his father. I think it's commendable. What does kind of is a little red flaggish to me is that he's stepping in to resolve personal situations in the parents. And so this is what I was referring to earlier when I talked about boundaries. There's nothing wrong with helping parents out when you are an adult. But, I start to think about at what point in his life and at what age did he start getting involved in his parents' private business? At what age did he start taking on that role, putting that role on himself to be resolving the issues of the adults around him? Did he do it as a teenager, or is it just now that he's an adult? It would be interesting to have more of that background.
We have had so many great years together of us spending time with each other, going on trips, but she had let me know about 3 years ago that she needed to get inside of a relationship and continue her life outside of just doing things with her son.
Yes, so I think that was definitely healthy on his mother's part to make that distinction between enjoying a friendship with your son. You can have some sort of friendship as your children grow up, but not using him as a substitute for the husband that cheated on you or that you left behind. It's a very gray area, and we have this son sort of stepping up in that role of the provider. He's the one that's opening up his house. He's the one that's rescuing the mother. He's the one that's solving her issues. And then at some point, she tries to establish a boundary where she says, besides your mom, I am a normal female who needs to have a counterpart, a partner. So there's a bit of a sticky wicket here. What seems to be a good relationship, good communication, and good company between the both of them, and her establishing boundaries at some point, normal boundaries in terms of her individuality and her identity. But I would say that definitely there is something that stands out to me in the fact that this son he's had to step up to be more than just a son, he's had to be her hero, her rescuer, and I think that would be a difficult thing to navigate as she tries to step into another relationship.
I knew what that meant, and she didn't want to directly say what that meant, but the truth was she was still ready to get down and dirty with some intimacy, and that was some stuff that I would not do.
This is controversial. Different people have different opinions, but in my in my viewpoint, there's a reason why, as a species, we have this sort of evolutionary disdain or an evolutionary avoidance of too much of a sexual component entering into first degree relationships. So between, for example, parents and children, simply because one, when your parents are used as sort of like a model. So when you learn that there's certain things that are private that you cannot delve into with your parents, you learn about other people having privacy and boundaries, and so that's how you learn to respect other people's privacy and boundaries in a wider society. And secondly, it can really, I don't want to say mess up, but it can complicate the children's sexual relationships and their sexual attraction to other people as well, if things get too muddled between parent and child. I'm not referring to incest specifically. I'm referring to any type of oversharing. It could be that parent that wants to tell you about their romantic disappointments, or they want to tell you too much about their sexual life. There's a difference between educating your children so that when they do get into their sexual life and they do become sexually active, they do so in as safe a way as possible. I think that's one thing, and I think that's good. I think it's another thing if you're oversharing, trying to get advice, and maybe just involving your children much more than you should. That can complicate things for them in their own sexual life later on.
So my mom got on some dating websites. She went out and started dating people, and then she has found her husband. They were dating for 2 years before they got married, and they ended up getting married about 6 months ago. Now, when they got married, about a week after the marriage, that's when things started to go downhill for her husband. But he didn't know it yet. He started to talk to me behind the scenes and tell me things that I should not tell my mother. Like, hey, you're about to be a 39, 40-year-old man. You should not be living at home with your mother anymore.
Okay, so this is what I was kind of referring to before. She's in a situation where she has relied on her son to be her savior, to be her hero. So he's a bit more than just a son. He's been her companion as well as and a friend and a shoulder to cry on and to lean on. And so he sees himself as a hero, and then she gets this partner who will also try to see himself as the hero in her life, the provider in her life. And so this sort of conflict is sort of inevitable.
I try to explain to him that I'm not living at home. I pay some of the bills, and he's like, well, no. It doesn't matter how many bills you pay inside of the house. Two grown men should not have to live inside of the house with each other. So I asked him, are you sure about that? Like, you sure that's like a real mindset? Should two grown men not live inside of the same household? And he said, most definitely. You're living inside of the house with your mother, and I am married to your mother, so I feel like you should leave our house. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I did not know whether my mom told him that the house was hers or what was going on in that situation, but I went straight to my mother about it.
I feel like this situation could have been averted with some clear conversation before this new husband moved into the household to co-reside. He did say that they were dating for 2 years, so they did have ample opportunity as they noticed that the relationship was solidifying between the mother and the new partner, to talk about what would happen if they did decide to get married, where they would live, and if they lived with him, there should have been a conversation with all three people involved to understand what the boundaries were in terms of behavior and privacy. Expectations should have been set. I think clear conversation would have relieved a lot of this tension beforehand, and so the situation wouldn't have come to this sort of a boil where people are talking and nobody knows exactly who's thinking what. So I think this is more a problem besides other things, but this is definitely a problem about communication before co-residing.
I talked to her and I said, hey, did you know anything about your husband saying that two grown men shouldn't be sleeping inside of the same household? And she was like, huh? That sounds ridiculous. And she blew it off. So I'm thinking, okay, she didn't have nothing to do with it. Which she didn't. The whole time had absolutely nothing to do with anything he had going on. So a week after that, my mother husband comes to me and he's showing me all of these different apartments, all of these different houses that are becoming available and popping up around our area. And I'm looking at it like, wow, that's really cool. You know what I'm saying? Because I still don't get the hint of what he's trying to do, but what he was trying to do was show me different places that I could move into. The crazy thing about it, I'm already living where I'm going to live for the rest of my house. I bought the house. This house is mine.
It's a bit incredible to me that this was not made clear over the course of 2 years and 6 months, that this man still does not know that where he's living was bought by this young man. I don't know if I believe this part is a bit muddy for me, and I think it would have just solved a lot of this confusion by just seeing this clearly from the beginning.
So I'm looking at him like, oh dang, that must be somewhere where you're gonna go. And he's like, oh nah, I'm not going anywhere. But I do know 2 grown men can't be living in this house for too much longer. And I looked at him and I said, are you sure about that? Like, you're sure that 2 grown men cannot live inside of the exact same household? And he was like, well, yeah, the house is paid off, but it don't matter. Still, 2 grown men shouldn't be living inside of the house. What do you contribute to the house? And I'm thinking to him, and I'm like, huh, that is kind of interesting, because I had bought the house already. I had a lawnmower man to come through and do all of the lawn. I also had somebody come through and get stuff out of the gutter. So this isn't stuff that I had to do inside of the house. And my mom, because she likes doing it, takes out the trash. So I'm sitting here thinking, oh, he assumes I don't do anything around the house because I don't do anything physically around the house. But like, does he know that the house is mine? So about, you know what I'm saying, 2 weeks inside of the situation, I look at him and I'm like, hey man, you know this is my house, right? And he was like, just because the house is in your family's name doesn't mean it's your house. It's your mom's house. Your mom is part of the family too. And I'm just shocked and appalled about this situation. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. I'm gonna go back into my room. All I do all day is play video games, stream, and make videos. That's it. That's it. That's all I have to do. Pretty much my job is a work from home job where I do sales. So in my free time, I'm pretty much chilling, doing nothing. Well, about 1 month ago, he comes on my room and he's banging on my door and he's like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this.
It's interesting to me that he also kind of makes his mother exempt from the situation. He says that the husband has gotten everything wrong and that she never said anything. He cleared that up with her. And as the situation goes on, I'm thinking, where is the mother to have the conversation with her husband to say, we need to move? If she sees that there's tension there, she needs, as the mother and the older adult, is to talk to her husband and resolve things with her husband. It feels like she's letting the 2 men, the two heroes, let's say, battle it out between themselves. I don't understand why.
I can't keep living like this. And I'm like, what's going on? He says, come here. He yells at me to come into the living room. And I go into the living room and there's a plate sitting there on the sofa. And I'm like, there's a plate of pizza rolls. And he's like, did you not see this plate? And I was like, well, no, I didn't see the plate. And he says, well, this plate's been here since last night. And I'm like, dang, who left it there? And he said, I left it there. But I expected somebody to do something around the house and get it cleaned up. And I'm like, so what you telling me is you expect me to come out of my room, go into the living room, make sure that you, a grown man, did not leave a plate on the table in the living room. And what you want to do, bring it to the kitchen and wash it? And he said, well, you could do something. I was like, okay, this is getting to be a big problem. And he's like, well, what is it a problem? All I'm saying is 2 grown men shouldn't be living under the same household. And I said, yeah, I think you're right. It's time for you to get your shit and dip. And he's like, dip? You can't make me leave my house. I'm married to your mom. And if your mom owns the house, it's mine. And I was like, my mom don't own the house. At that time, my mom comes out of the living room, out of the bedroom, and she's like, what's going on? What's all the commotion? And I'm like, this man is a tyrant. he's also just an awful human being in general. And she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, every single step of the way, he's telling me to do things that I'm not supposed to do and saying that two grown men can't be living in the same household. My mom then said, are you still on about this? I told you to let it go. And he said, I'm a man. I ain't got to let anything go that I don't want to let go.
Okay, so the mother did try to talk to the stepfather in private, it would seem, but the stepfather is still uncomfortable, perhaps with the degree of intimacy between the mother and the son, that the son has a lifestyle that he doesn't recognize as valuable, doesn't recognize virtual sales and virtual activity as real, quote unquote, working. Perhaps the mother also has that role of the mother cleaning and picking up after her son, taking out the trash. And the new husband doesn't like that because it's a pattern that he doesn't recognize and he's uncomfortable with. So it's going to keep irritating him day after day. And this is the reason why co-residency probably never was the best solution for them. And the mother and the new husband probably should have looked at new housing very early on, perhaps even before getting married, because if you've been dating someone for 2 years, you kind of get an idea of their values and so on. So you would know that this situation would not be sustainable.
If this grown man wants to live inside of the household, he's going to have to contribute something. And I said straight up, I contributed the house, the mortgage, the property tax. That's what I contribute. I clean up my stuff. I do whatever I need. I'm literally minding my own business in my own house, making sure that my mom has somewhere safe to stay. But if you truly believe that you can do better somewhere else, you got to go ahead and do that, my boy. You're going to have to get your shit and dip, because I'll be damned if you stay in here talking to me like that, all this bullshit.
Someone has started setting healthy boundaries, so kudos to him, because in this situation so far, it's been screaming lack of boundaries, people not respecting healthy roles in a situation. Kudos to him for being the first one in this trio of adults to start setting healthy boundaries.
And he is like, well, you can't talk to me like that. I'm the man of the house. And I'm like, man of the house? Nigga, I'm about 38. I'm about 40 years old. We're roommates. And you're not even my roommate anymore. And my mom was like, well, please, baby, don't do this. Hell no. I hit him with a whole eviction letter. And I said, you got to go. And I will kick my mom out if she wants to stay with this bum-ass man and keep on living like that. But everybody is saying that I am the a-hole for also kicking out my mom. And I'm saying, if you want to stay married to him and you want him over at the house, you're going to have to figure that out.
Correct. Set expectations, set boundaries, and also consequences.
Because he can't be here while I'm here, and I work here, and live here, and eat here, and bring some of my Tinder dates here. So y'all gonna have to figure out where y'all gonna go, because he can't come back in this house. And I kicked him out. So now the eviction is about to be up in about 2 days, and he's finally got everything packed, talking about he's gonna go somewhere. My mom is crying to me, saying that she's going to lose another one of her husbands.
Yeah, mom and son definitely could benefit from some therapy. Mom definitely needs to understand that she cannot expect her son to be her hero, and she cannot expect to be the victim that he always needs to rescue.
It is what it is. You got to pick better. But am I the a-hole for kicking out my mom's husband?
My personal opinion is that I don't think he's the a-hole for putting them out. I think that he definitely loves his mother, which is admirable and lovely. But at the end of the day, roles and boundaries need to be respected. Privacy and intimacy need to be managed appropriately in all relationships, not just between mother and son, but also between roommates, between step children and step parents, and so on. And what really, really helps that is having clear conversations before getting into committed situations like co-residency. This is not just in his case, but in any situation where you have co-residency happening. Clear expectations and boundaries need to be set, and consequences as well. And those consequences need to be held. So good luck to all of them in what seems to be a bit of a complicated situation. I do not think he is the a-hole. All right. So I hope to see you again some other time when we nibble on something and watch a little bit more of internetery. Take care until then. Bye-bye.